Welcome back to another episode of the Distil-Nation NZ podcast. My name's Tom. I'm the owner and distiller here at Herrick Creek Distillery, and I'm joined, as always, by my friend and co-host, the handsome, the sweaty Cameron.
Yes, thank you, and it is indeed hot. I am indeed sweaty. As for my looks, I'll leave that up to the viewer. But it is, as always, a pleasure to be here with you talking New Zealand spirits. And what are we diving into today?
So we're diving into the first ever episode on this podcast for rum, New Zealand rum.
Yes.
Something you and I are a bit iffy on, I'd say. But
that's not true.
No,
I wouldn't say I'm iffy on it.
Okay. I'm iffy on it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Not iffy in like I don't like it. Iffy in I don't know much about it.
Okay.
How's that? So we've pulled together two New Zealand rums. One of them being 1919's Cane Rum. It's their barrel-aged one, as well as Black Collar, their barrel-aged rum as well. But we kind of want to chat about what it is, what's coming up for the industry, and you know how does New Zealand stand out in this fashion? You know, so
and prove to everybody that we're not solely a whiskey focused podcast.
Yeah, which I think this season of the Distil-Nation NZ podcast is really going to prove to everybody. You know, we'll have everything. We've got everything.
Oh yeah,
but let's branch
out.
New
Zealand has got everything.
New Zealand has everything. So you've got a great list. You've done some fantastic research.
I got to dive back into my history degree and pull up some of the things that I learned when I was at university, but also kind of remind myself of some of these researching skills. Don't say we don't put in the hard yards for you, because we absolutely do.
You do, that's for sure.
So most people, they think rum, they think pirates. And I think that's a little bit unfair, because what we really need to be thinking is not pirates, but the Navy. And the Navy is the key to creating rum.
All right.
Or, well, not for the creating of rum, but certainly for rum becoming a category in and of itself. So before we get to what rum is, I'm going to dive a wee bit into the history. We've got the navies of a bunch of different countries, including the British, the French, the Spanish, and then weirdly, we've got the Dutch East India Company, which is a private navy in and of itself. Mm-hmm. It would be like if a corporation the likes of McDonald's had its own private standing army. That is the basic equivalent.
Right.
So they're going across the Caribbean, because these are where the new and unexplored lands are, and they find all of these islands which they didn't discover because there was already people living on them. And they then decide, okay, well, how can we make it profitable? What can we grow here? They try tobacco, doesn't really work. They try a bunch of other things until they hit on sugar. Sugar cane grows incredibly well. And so they are growing the sugar, they're refining the sugar, and they're shipping that back to the old world. So in order to make the granulated sugar that you find on your desk in your kitchens, you have to grow the actual sugar cane, grows up in a big cane, and then you are boiling it down. So you get all of that, you boil it down, and you scoop the syrup off the top as it starts to reduce.
Right.
That's called your cane juice.
Okay.
You then take that mixture, once you have boiled it down and kind of reduced it down, and you put that into pots to dry, and these pots have got little holes in the bottom, and so all of the excess liquid from that, this black, syrupy liquid, comes out the bottom, leaving you in your pot with all of that sugar that's starting to to crystallize, which is what you add to your tea, coffee, top of your Weet-Bix. But all of that black stuff coming out of the bottom is molasses. So back in the 1600s, when they are starting all of these sugarcane factories across the Caribbean, they are dumping molasses into the sea. It's a waste product. What are we doing? This is just a necessary evil of creating the sugar that is the big boom crop of the century. So what do we do with it? Now, many of the people who may or may not have been press-ganged into the Navy, you would have a lot of enterprising Scots and a lot of enterprising Irish who, probably looking at this rather sugary mix, started to say, I reckon we could ferment that. I reckon we could distill it.
As they would, yeah.
And so all of a sudden you have this waste product that was quite literally just being dumped into the sea because, well, you know, maybe we add it to some grains and feed it to the crops, feed it to the animals rather, feed it to the pigs. And now all of a sudden you have created an industry that is starting to rival sugar in terms of its profitability. Where was rum originally created? We don't exactly know. Barbados has put its hand up to say it was us. And they've got Mount Gay Distillery on Barbados, which has been running continuously since 1703.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had 1769 in my head for some reason. But
That's probably another history kind of date in there.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of where it started. And of course, for most of the Caribbean, as and yes, it all came back to the Navy would go over with goods to supply the New World with everything that they needed, with everything that couldn't be grown in these tropical climates. They are then coming back with sugar, but here's the thing, Tom. Everybody will know the classic ballad, 6 months in a leaky boat.
yeah.
How do you keep your water fresh while you are at sea? You have to take on a supply of fresh water, and you're sailing for 6 months. How do you keep that water fresh while you're sailing? You add rum to it.
Right, okay.
And adding that alcohol to your water actually stops the mold and the bacteria and everything else forming up in your water. That kind of watery rum kind of mixture is grog. So that's where that name comes from.
Right.
So they're loading up, and then, of course, you have the very infamous your standard tot, which was the amount of rum that was dished out as part of your daily rations for serving in the Navy.
Yeah.
And that's where the Navy and rum, they become inextricably linked. So part of it's part of your daily ration.
Yeah.
But they relied on rum in order to preserve their water and to preserve other things as well. So rum then started going back and was that great big transatlantic trade. So, jumping back a bit, and this is where I find rum fascinating. I don't know about you, but there's something about whiskey with its rules and its regulations and its very strict and clear definitions that you find some measure of comfort in. In comparison, rum is a bit lawless. Because yes,
as you kind of want it to be,
you kind of want it to be, because it while it originates in the Caribbean, basically you can get it wherever you grow sugar.
Right.
So they're making rum in Fiji. They're making rum in Australia, famously. They're making rum in a whole bunch of different places. And unlike Distilled Spirits Aotearoa or the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, there is no overarching guiding body, a guiding worldwide body,
right,
that said, all right, these are the rules, this is rum, this isn't rum. So it's all a bit... You can use some of that cane juice, that white cane juice,
yeah,
and that makes your white rums. You can use some of that molasses, the dark stuff, the treacly stuff that's dripping out the bottom, and that's your black rums. But you can use a blend of the two and call it a golden rum. You can use a pot still or a column still or both. You can put it in a barrel and decide, okay, well, I'm going to add some charred pineapple ends or some spices or something like that and call it a spice rum or a flavoured rum. It's all very, to my way of looking at it, a bit loosey-goosey.
But I think everybody sort of agrees it's made from sugarcane.
Yes.
Any variation of sugarcane, basically, right? That can be a rum.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess, yeah, from there it kind of gets a bit here and there. And I think a lot of people do get confused with white, gold, and dark, you know, because
Spiced.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different ones like that, because you can get a white rum that looks dark, you know, but it's not about how it looks. It's actually about what it's made from, right?
Indeed.
And same with the dark. You could have a dark rum that's actually clear and white, but it's just what it's made from. It's made from that molasses.
Do you age it in a barrel? Maybe. Depends.
Yeah.
Whatever you feel like.
Yeah.
And I guess I would couch this in two ways, saying that, yeah, the rules might be a little out there, loosey-goosey, but they do have to put on the label if there is any kind of additive in it.
Yeah.
They've got to let you know. So you can look to that. Now, I did say that there is no overarching global body for rum. There isn't. But distilled spirits, Aotearoa, have come together to...
And for those of you who don't know, Distilled Spirits Aotearoa, that's our sort of governing body for craft spirits here in New Zealand. It's a collective of craft distillers who can come together sort of as a brotherhood, sisterhood, if you will, and we get to support each other, and we also get to lobby just for legislative support or whatever. So in the past, they have come up with the whiskey definition. They're currently working through New Zealand Spirits definition, and they have previously, within 2021, is that right?
I believe so.
Done this rum definition.
No, 22.
22, so very, very
So
recent.
I won't read the whole thing. You can find it on the website. But rum is a spirit drink obtained exclusively by alcoholic fermentation and distillation of sugarcane molasses, sugarcane syrups, sugarcane juices, or cane sugar produced during the processing of sugarcane. And then goes on to say that it's got to produce in such a way that it's derived from the natural raw materials, the processes of the fermentation distillation, bottled at a minimum of 35.5% ABV. So there's no real surprises in there, is what I'm saying. There's no real surprises in terms of the definitions of what it is.
It is just what it should be, basically. Yeah, right. And then we're sort of... Is there anything about it having to be made in New Zealand? Did you say that?
Now, here's where maybe we start with black collar.
Okay.
So if you want to open that one up.
I was feeling that way too, actually. So that's good.
I have tried black collar rum before. I once held a paired rum and chocolate tasting. So each rum was paired at a chocolate. And so I have experienced them before. Now, the reason I wanted to start with this one first.
Okay.
So these guys are from Kerikeri, or just outside of Kerikeri, which is in the far north of New Zealand, the far, far north. My in-laws happen to live up and around that way. So I looked them up on Google Maps, went by because I was hoping to pop in. They don't have a visitors centre. They don't have anywhere that you can go and visit. So I was deeply disappointed by that. So New Zealand does not grow sugarcane in any kind of commercial quality.
Right.
So I was really surprised because I was hunting for this. And Chelsea Sugar, which is very, very big, old, well-known New Zealand brand.
Everybody uses them. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, if anybody's going to know, they're going to know.
Yeah.
And on their website, no, it's the raw product is being imported mainly from Australia.
Right. Yeah. And they're processing it in all sorts of different
and they're doing a whole bunch of different things here, but it's that raw ingredient that is being imported. Now, also in my searches, I found an article from 2020. There was a gentleman living in Northland, close to Kerikeri, where black collar is from, which says that the climate of Northland is well suited for growing sugarcane. 100%. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's pretty subtropical up there.
It's a very subtropical. You think it's hot today? You head up there. That is the winterless north.
Yeah.
And I do think so. That is not that it's Black Collar's fault, nothing to do with them at all. But I do think that there is a missed opportunity for Northland to start growing sugarcane in commercial quantities. I think that would be.
Come on, everybody! Everybody listening,
How
go
do we
start
make that happen?
sugarcane farm up there.
So that was why I wanted to start with this one because, basically, if you're making rum, and to call it a New Zealand rum, we can't talk about homegrown ingredients just because there's
no way to do it.
No, there's just not enough sugarcane here in order for that to happen. But if they could grow it up in the winterless north, I imagine that the good people at Black Collar, being up that way themselves, I'm sure they'd be among the first to start. Me very broadly speaking on their behalf here.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
I mean, we don't know really much about the rum. I don't know much about it, but they say it's a golden rum, so it must be a bit of a mix of ingredients in there.
Mix of your molasses and your cane juice.
Yep. Distilled in a pot still, and aged in oak, and it does have a nice light color to it, and it's kind of a what would you say, like burnt. Not burnt sugar, but almost like toast, like a heavy toast, a heavy piece of toast with honey, almost, or something like that, or marmalade.
See, now this is where not having grown up in New Zealand, it's like your watered down golden syrup. And golden syrup is very different to maple syrup.
I'm definitely not a fan of golden syrup,
but that is what it is. It's not as thick, nowhere near as thick, but it's kind of, vanilla-y, toasted, but you've got some of those beautiful, good old Kiwi golden syrup kind of, and you get it in the tin, and you've got to get a screwdriver or the flat of your butter knife in order to get there and lever the top off that tin.
It's an abomination. Maple flavored golden syrup.
No, it's not maple flavored. It's just golden syrup.
No, I've seen maple flavored ones.
Okay.
That's disgusting.
No, I'm not going there. I'm just talking about the Kiwi institution.
Yeah. It's still terrible.
Classic.
Yeah. I guess I could see where you're coming from with that, but yeah, definitely for me, like a really heavy toasted piece of toast with like butter and maybe a little bit of marmalade or honey, sort of thing, and that's pretty descriptive for me, to be honest.
Taking that first sip, there is just a tiny bit of char, a bit of.
I get honey right away.
Yeah.
Not like Manuka honey or anything, just regular honey. But yeah, definitely a little bit of char, a bit of vanilla, a bit of caramel. So, distinctly rum, I don't know how to describe that.
It's unmistakably a rum.
Yeah.
Now, again, the good people at Black Collar, they make a gin, they make a vodka, but it really is... I think these guys were the first New Zealand rum that I'd come across. Mm-hmm. They do this, they've got a black rum, they've got a wide range of limited releases. And again, this is kind of with my New Zealand whiskey hat on, and I'm looking at that going, oh, hell, hey, what are you doing? They do a pineapple flavoured one. Right? How do you flavour it with pineapple? Well, you char the rind or the flesh of a pineapple and you throw it in the barrel, which, again, to my mind, like, how do you get the flavours in there? Oh, well, you just put them in there.
Yep. Shove them in.
That's not the approach that New Zealand whiskey makers are able to take. But for your rum producers or for your gin producers or liqueurs or other things, yeah. You can indeed just get that fruit and put it on into the barrel. So, yes, they indeed keep an eye out for, if you like rum and you also like... Wacky's not quite the right word because it's certainly not what I intend by that. No. But these kind of out there, seasonal, different kind of releases.
Maybe more like in your face, just...
Innovative. Then Black Collar are producing a bunch of different stuff. So there's a reason to keep going back to their online shop to see what is new, because they are indeed.
Very affordable, very easy to find. Yeah, that's a good one for New Zealand.
And a spiced rum as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think I really did quite enjoy their spiced rum.
One thing I don't know if we talk about enough on this, just
Yep.
so people know, we're not like, Black Collar hasn't sent this to us.
Nope.
They haven't paid us or anything like that. We just
Nope.
picked 2 random rums. We've gone out and bought them, and we're
Yep.
trying them. That's all. I thought we could maybe just quickly, maybe we should just try and come up between the two of us, come up with who's making rum in New Zealand. Let's just spit out a list. Who comes to our mind? We know we've got Black Collar. We've got 1919. I know of Lunatic and Lover up
Yes.
in Auckland.
It's certainly not as widespread as other. That's not fair. Broken Heart came to mind, and it's not that Broken Heart are making a rum; it's that their whiskey is aged in spiced rum barrels.
I do think they have a spiced rum
Oh.
as well, though.
Okay.
I do think they have spiced
Maybe
rum.
that's
I
where
don't
I'm
know if
getting
they
that
make
from.
it or whatnot. I don't know what the deal is there. The National Distillery Company in Hawke's Bay.
Yep.
LWF Distilling. They do rum. They're a small craft distillery. Can't remember exactly where they're from, but they're around. Anybody else come to mind? I'm sort of like going through the country and
Yes.
seeing if I can
Yeah.
see one. We need a map. We need a map for sure.
We all need a map. So what I love, just going back earlier, so I've told you, rum became part of that standard issue of rations for the British Navy 1731.
Wow.
1731 it started off, and you'd have a half pint a day.
How do you know how late it went?
Yes, I do.
How late?
Well, so from the British Navy, and then New Zealand got its own navy, and it went through a couple of iterations before it became
course,
the Royal
yeah.
New Zealand Navy that we know today, because we were, of course, a colony. So it was basically we're the New Zealand branch of the British Navy before
Yeah,
it
yeah.
ended up becoming the New Zealand Navy. But upon becoming the New Zealand Navy, it stayed as part of a regular ration. Do you want to have unless you've looked at my page already,
I do know the number, so just
1990.
Yeah, that's crazy, eh?
And well, they took a bit
So
of
people listening could have been in the Navy right now.
and I've met some of them. It has been my great privilege and honour to have run 2 tastings for the Royal New Zealand Navy Reservist Base here in Christchurch.
Yeah.
The first one that I did was a whiskey tasting. The second one was a rum tasting. Bayside rum. That was because I had that at my tasting that I did for them.
The NZ Rum Company as well. That's another one.
And yes, there were most definitely. So your reservists tended to be people who had just kind of graduated from the cadets and had not yet joined, and equally people who had been active members of the Navy and had since retired. So that tended to be your reservists, and there were 100% people there who remembered the days of when a
so
daily
funny.
standard ration of rum was part of Navy life.
The other good thing, I mean, that rum is also the birth of where we get the terms for proof,
Yes.
and Navy strength, of course, which we use in gin as well. But that's where it all comes from. It's all from rum, really. Rum was the initial one, and proof being that they had to prove that it was of, the highest strength, and so they had to light it on fire with gunpowder, and if it lit, it was proof.
It
right?
was you pour it on top of a pile of gunpowder, and if the gunpowder still lit after being wetted by your rum,
Yep.
then it was good.
Yeah, it was proof. Yeah, proof that it was good rum, I guess. But it's so cool that it all goes back to that. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, and this is where I don't know how pirates came in and stole the show. I don't know, but really, it is indeed the good people of the Navy that we have to thank for its spread around the globe.
Yeah,
really,
it really is, and yeah, you can make it anywhere, right? So
that's exactly it.
And it is sort of along that line of whiskey, is because it's a dark spirit. A lot of times, it can be. It's not always dark, but it's got quite a bit in there that you can easily sip this straight. And most people will, drink a rum straight, but you can easily mix it with all sorts of stuff. But I don't know why it's for someone like me, maybe I don't drink a ton of rum. I don't know why, but I could for sure. I don't know why I haven't ever got into it, but I could definitely get into it. You know.
And I think certainly the books that I was reading. Yes, I read books. And
Did you go to the library too?
No, I didn't. I didn't go to the library. I already had these books from when I was doing my research for the tasting that I held for the naval base. And I will put the I'll list the books that I was looking at. So if anybody else wants to read either into the history, there's no book or source I was able to find about rum in New Zealand,
Right.
Because it hasn't been made here.
Yeah.
We didn't have the sugarcane and everything. Basically, all the raw ingredients or raw spirit has all been imported. So it doesn't quite have the same kind of history within inland New Zealand. Once you start to get away from the ports, doesn't have the same kind of history that other spirits have.
Yeah.
But certainly, if you're interested into more of a global look and how it spread, I'll put those links in there as well.
Very cool. Yeah, that'd be good.
But yeah, and it is weird that people would look and think, just as you do with whiskey, you can look at a bottle of a more pale coloured whiskey, just as you would look at a more pale coloured rum, versus a very dark one, and think that the darker the colour, therefore the more complex and intense the flavour, and that simply isn't true.
No, yeah, it's definitely not, eh? Yeah, it all depends on how it's distilled, what's the ingredients, what's the barrel, or if there is a barrel, or what are they adding to it, or what are they not doing to it. You know, there's so much that can go into these rums, and there's a ton of flavour to it. It's really hard to describe, like, the overall characteristic of rum. Like, if someone had never tried a rum before, how do you describe it? You know, it's
and that's kind of the trouble. If we go overseas, you can get some really funky, weird, out there rums where I have heard others talk about burning tire as a note you get, burnt rubber. You can go all the way from that to the likes of some of your more mainstream white rums, the likes of Bacardi, say, where it's all fresh coconut and very, very light fresh. And yeah, to try and say this is the quality of rum, you're just going to find yourself with more exceptions to the rule than things that prove your rule.
Yes. Yeah.
I think in some cases, and again, it will need people that have put more research in than I, to talk about a regionality between this is a Jamaican rum versus a Barbados rum versus a Guyana rum. But all of this here, I don't think the New Zealand's rum industry is big enough and old enough to be able to talk about a New Zealand characteristic of rum.
Definitely fair enough. I think it's got room for spiced rum to do something like that, you know? Like spiced rum, I think they're probably, using a New Zealand botanical or something like that. They can use that and really add some New Zealand to it. But, it's tough, eh? Because, I mean, how New Zealand can it be with imported ingredients, for example? So what can we do to it here in New Zealand to make it more
make
Kiwi?
It distinctly,
yeah.
That certainly poses a challenge. That if you can't talk about how the ingredients have been sourced within New Zealand or grown here or that kind of thing, you are really having trouble with the label on that bottle.
I've got it, but this one is I've just pulled out. Sorry,
I was just saying 38.5 ABV on the black collar. What's that on the 1919?
46 on the 1919.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to point out that it's a screw top instead of a cork, which might be going to our sustainability chat. But it's quite interesting. But 1919 gin, a lot of people will know that. Is this your clean glass?
That's my clean glass. Thank you.
They have started a rum program, and he's doing white rum and this, which he calls single cask rum, 100% copper pot distilled in New Zealand. He's up near Auckland, and 46%. Single has been aged in an ex-bourbon barrel and stored in the temperate climate of Auckland. And that's all I know. There we go.
Let's give it a go.
I had tried this at the Dark Spirits Festival in
Yes.
Christchurch. And I found it to be one of the most appealing rums that I've ever tasted. And maybe you'll see why, because I can smell it right away. It's just... To me, it's fruity. It's fruity. Real fruity.
I need to let this sit a bit more. It's a fresh crack on the bottle and a fresh pour into the glass. I need to let that sit. Whereas that black collar was, and probably has something to do with the lower ABV, but that was immediately accessible and sippable. You put that wee bit of lime juice, bit of ginger ale, a whole lot of ice, and I think you are set for a day like today where it is indeed quite hot.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Quite warm.
Rum is one of those good drinks. You can mix it with anything cold, and it'll be pretty good.
It's versatile is what it is. Very versatile.
But to me, with this cane rum, it's fruity up front for me. It's citrusy, It's got this bright, beautiful fruit note. And it misses out on some of that metalliciness that a lot of rums have. To me, a lot of rums have a metallic note. Like if you were sniffing like outdoor iron or outdoor steel, whereas this one is almost whiskey-ish to me, It just misses out on that metallic note. I don't know how to explain it any other way, but it's certainly not a whiskey. It's definitely a rum, but it's beautiful, bright fruit, and that's what I loved about it when I tried it the first time.
Oh boy,
It's different.
it is very different.
Yeah, and I don't hold me to this, but I'm sure he's using some sort of molasses, and he might be using some cane sugar as well.
Well, he has called that cane.
Yeah, so I think it's like raw sugar, raw cane sugar,
Okay.
not just white sugar or something. But I'm pretty sure that's it. Plus, he puts it through the big copper pot still. He's got, I think it's like 1,700, 1,800 liters that he made with a mate, and into an ex-bourbon cask, and out it comes just like that.
Oh, now having added some water to that, that is a big hit of vanilla. And have you just, whether or not you planted that because you just said ex-bourbon cask.
Oh, yeah, no, I see it.
But there's still, there's a lemon lime, citrus, there is a lovely vanilla. It's certainly, I'm not about to mistake it with a bourbon. It's certainly fruitier and a bit more out there than that. But
I could almost mistake it for a Speyside.
Really?
I could almost mistake it for that. I think if you gave me this in a blind taste, I could almost hit Speyside. And that's quite cool. I don't know.
Well, it's certainly not what not what we are trying to compare it to.
No, but
Because I just think the exercise for this one, because I have had people ask, they're like, hey, so what's the difference between whiskey and bourbon or whiskey and rum? And so there are misconceptions about how things are made and what they're made from. And certainly rum is one of those categories. Well, it could be this and also this and maybe this with a bit of this. So having that discussion is great. Also, you start talking about what New Zealand is famous for. I'm almost willing to put gin top billing in terms of people know that we are making a wide variety of fantastic gin, then whiskey. But if you were to start talking that actually there is rum being produced here in New Zealand, not only that, there is a variety of rums, multiple rums being made around New Zealand, I think that would be surprising for many people, many rum drinkers to hear.
absolutely. And I think that's the fun of it, is that, rum can be different. Rum can be it can have a variety to it. You know, it's good. It's good to me that we can have two rums in front of us from a very similar region, and have two very different rums.
Also, two golden rums. The fact that we
Yeah.
haven't gone out there with a black rum and a white rum and and a spiced rum as well. Even two rums within the same kind of category, and again, there is a startling amount of variation between the two.
Yeah, like as a whiskey drinker, I think you get a lot of value for a drink in rum. You know, it's maybe not as old or anything like that, but flavor wise, you know, you're going to get a lot of value for a good price with rum. I think there's a lot to explore in that.
So I am hoping that at some stage we'll be able to have more of an in-depth conversation with some New Zealand rum producers, hoping that we can put that on the cards. And certainly, just because there is there is so much to explore, as we've alluded to, in terms of the sheer range of spirits that you can find within that sheer range of spirit that you can find within that rum category.
Yeah.
There is a whole lot to explore, and we have barely scratched the surface in this chat.
Definitely. And I think there's a ton of spiced rum, especially, I'd love to look into. And it'd be really good to, chat with the distillers and see, you know, where they're coming from and what their hopes and goals are, you know, for rum in New Zealand and whatnot. I think there's a couple specific ones that'd be really keen to share that story.
Can we start a sugarcane plantation in Northland?
Yeah, who's up for that? Yeah, who's got the land? Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. In fact, if anybody on here's got the land, I'll come do it. I don't even make rum, but I'll do it. It sounds fun.
Growing corn, growing sugarcane. How hard can it be, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, nah.
Well, before we get ourselves into any more trouble.
Yeah, no, I think that's quite a good little intro. You know, it's a quick intro. Well, can go from here, you know, which is fun. For us on the podcast, this is the first time you and I have explored it. You and I aren't hugely adept to rum, but I think this is a great intro. And to see two very different rums, I think I'm excited. I'm excited to see what else comes out of it. And I'm excited to hear that a lot of distillers are starting to look into rum. Well, yeah, I'm gonna, this is the 17th time I've said it, but I'm excited. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
We've now got that on
record.
record.
Got that on record. Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
Listen, if anybody wants to get in touch with us, ask us about rum, or if you want to get in touch with us and have questions about rum or any other spirit for that matter, New Zealand related hopefully, but you know, whatever you got, send it our way. Distil-Nation NZ is our socials. Distil-Nation.nz is our website, and distilnationnz@gmail.com is our email address, so you can contact us anytime there. And we'd love to hear from you, really. Like, It's not an imposition at all, you know.
If there's a topic to tackle, if there is a distiller or a distillery that you want to hear from, or just any general questions about, well, how has this come to be, let us know.
Let's do it, because we got more rum for sure to tackle. This is, yeah. This is just the start. So, thank you for listening. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you're enjoying a glass of rum while you're listening to this. But cheers, and we'll chat soon.